The footage looked clean. Sunlit concrete, straight lines. A coastline that suggested money had already settled in. Investors watched the drone glide forward, smooth and confident, as if the building had nothing left to hide. No helmets, no workers, no ground sound, just height and motion and promise. Money moved fast after that. Wires cleared, updates came weekly, always from above, the same angle, the same marker on the dirt, the same claim that progress was steady and ahead of schedule. No one was allowed on site. Weather delays, insurance issues, safety protocols. Every excuse fit neatly inside another aerial clip. Then questions started coming in. Quiet at first. Then louder. Requests for permits, requests for walkthroughs, requests for proof that could not fly away. The drone kept returning. The ground never changed. What happens when a development exists only in the sky, and belief becomes the most expensive material on site? Chapter 1. The footage. The first video opened with height. The drone rose slow and steady, clearing a line of palms and revealing a stretch of pale dirt shaped into clean rectangles. Sunlight hit the ground at an angle that softened everything. From above, the site looked ordered. Planned! Ready! The voiceover did not rush. It spoke in measured confidence. Luxury coastal living, phase 1 already underway, foundations set, timeline on track. There were no workers visible, no trucks, no rebar. The absence did not register at first. The camera kept moving forward, higher, calm. Investors watched from offices, kitchens, parked cars. Some watched on mute. The footage did the work. The glide suggested progress. The altitude suggested authority. The distance removed doubt. The next clip arrived a week later. Same site, same light, same angle. A white marker sat near the center of the frame, shaped like a temporary survey post. It became a reference point without anyone naming it. Proof that this was not recycled footage. Proof that time was passing. Emails followed each release. Short, polished, progress continues. Strong interest, limited remaining allocations. Money moved after the third video. Wires cleared in hours. Escrow instructions came attached as clean PDFs. The sender used a development name that sounded established. Neutral, professional, nothing sharp enough to catch suspicion. One investor asked about a ground visit. The reply came the same day. Site access restricted during early groundwork. Insurance carrier rules. Safety first. The answer felt responsible. The drone returned the next week anyway. The footage showed trenches now, shallow lines cutting across the dirt. From above, they read as early foundation work. The voiceover confirmed it. Utilities trenching in progress. Formwork scheduled next. No one asked why the trenches looked untouched by machines. The drone did not linger. It passed over them the way a finger passes over text. Marketing picked up pace. Social clips appeared. Short edits pulled from the longer flyovers. Slow motion passes, sun flares added in post, a sense of inevitability. The project did not sell itself as speculative. It sold itself as underway. A private call followed for larger investors. Cameras off, slides shared. The same aerial images appeared again, now embedded in pitch decks. Renderings were minimal. The real world was supposed to be visible already. Questions came in through chat. How many units pre-sold? What percentage complete? When would interiors begin? The answers stayed high level. On schedule, on track, ahead of comparable builds. No one asked for permits, not yet. The drone footage kept coming, weekly, sometimes twice. The white marker remained. The sun angle changed slightly. Clouds passed in one clip. The site itself did not. The voiceover never said concrete had been poured. It said groundwork, preparation, alignment, language that sounded like movement without committing to it. Investors compared notes in private messages. The footage looked good, clean, organized. One person said it reminded him of a project he had backed years earlier. Another said the coastline alone justified the risk. One investor noticed the absence of noise. No dust plumes, no tire tracks, no change in the access road. He paused the video and zoomed in. The resolution held. The dirt surface was smooth. He did not raise it publicly. The drone flew again, this time at sunset. The site glowed. Long shadows stretched across the rectangles. The white marker cast a line that shifted with the light. The illusion deepened. An update email followed within minutes of the upload. Strong momentum. Construction cadence increasing. Appreciation projections attached. Still no ground access. A smaller investor tried again. Asked to walk the perimeter. He offered to sign a waiver. The reply came slower this time. Weather window closed. Heavy equipment scheduled. Safety constraints unchanged. The answer was not wrong. It was vague. It was enough. Money continued to flow. The drone operator remained unnamed. No credits. No behind the scenes. The footage appeared as if it simply existed. In one clip, a temporary fence line appeared at the edge of frame. In the next, it was gone. No explanation. No comment. The white marker never moved. An investor finally asked on a group call whether the same marker was being used for reference. The moderator smiled, said survey points were normal, said alignment checks were ongoing. The drone rose higher than before. The site shrank. The coastline widened. Perspective softened detail. From that height, nothing looked unfinished. It only looked early. The marketing language shifted subtly. Not yet complete became already underway. Planned became progressing. The development name began appearing in email signatures with a logo. Clean lines, neutral colors. It suggested permanence. One investor forwarded the footage to a friend in construction. Asked for a quick look. The friend replied with a single question. Where are the spoil piles? The investor did not understand the question. Weeks passed. The drone kept returning, always smooth, always distant, always convincing. No boots hit the ground, no concrete trucks arrived on camera, no steel rose. From above, the site remained a promise. The footage did not lie outright. It framed. By the time anyone thought to ask what could not be seen from the sky, belief was already set. Chapter 2. The questions did not arrive all at once. They slipped in between updates. Quiet replies to group emails, direct messages sent late at night, small requests that did not sound like accusations. Can we see permits? Is there a construction schedule we can review? Who is the general contractor on site? The first answers were polite and slow. Documents were being finalized. The contractor was rotating crews. Administrative lag. Nothing alarming. Nothing specific. The drone footage continued on schedule. It arrived like reassurance. Each clip opened with the same rise, the same sweep, the same controlled pace. The white marker still sat where it always had. One investor noticed something new. The trenches from earlier footage looked identical, same depth, same edges, no disturbance. He pulled an old clip and set them side by side. The lines matched too closely. He asked about it privately. The response thanked him for his attention to detail and assured him that underground work often progressed invisibly. The answer sounded technical. It did not explain the sameness. A different investor searched public records. He expected to find a thick trail. Coastal developments required layers of approval, environmental sign-off, zoning adjustments. What he found was thin. A preliminary filing, no construction permits tied to the scope being advertised. He sent screenshots to the group, asked if anyone else had seen more. Silence followed, then a reply from the development team. Permitting was staged. Early work did not require full approval. Everything was compliant. No documents were attached. The next drone clip arrived with tighter framing. The camera stayed higher, less ground detail, more horizon. The voiceover emphasized future phases. Interiors coming soon, amenities planned. Someone asked for a site visit again. The reply came 2 days later. Access still restricted. Insurance carrier unchanged. The language felt copied. A contractor named in an earlier slide deck was contacted directly. The investor posed as a potential supplier. Asked about timelines. The contractor replied with confusion. Said they had bid months earlier. Said no contract had been executed. That message did not circulate widely. The investor was cautious. He wanted clarity before noise. Another investor drove to the site himself. He stayed off the property, parked across the road. What he saw did not match the footage. The land was flat, quiet, no equipment, no security, no temporary offices. The white marker was visible, small and lonely. He took photos, sent them privately to 2 others. The drone flew again that week. Sunset again. The site glowed the way raw land glows when framed correctly. The contrast between air and ground became impossible to ignore. Requests for escrow statements increased. The replies shifted tone, less friendly, more procedural. Statements were summarized, not shared. Funds were allocated across phases. Cash flow normal. One investor asked who controlled the escrow. The answer named a holding entity. Not a bank. Not a familiar firm. A company registered out of state with a mailing address tied to a virtual office. That raised alarms. A deeper search showed multiple related entities. Marketing firms, holding companies, consulting services. Money moved laterally between them. Not illegally on paper. Just loosely. The drone footage continued to anchor belief. It was hard to argue against something everyone could see. On a group call, an investor asked directly whether any concrete had been poured. The moderator paused, said foundation work was staged, said pouring was scheduled, said weather windows mattered. The answer did not say yes. Another investor noticed the drone clips lacked timestamps. No metadata, no dates burned into frame. The uploads were labeled by week, not by day. He asked for raw footage. The reply said files were large, distribution limited. The next clip arrived shorter than usual. 2 passes, no close-ups. The white marker was still there. Frustration began to surface. Not panic yet, irritation, the feeling of being managed instead of informed. A spreadsheet circulated quietly. Names, amounts, dates wired. Everyone filled in what they knew. The totals were higher than anyone expected. Someone finally asked the question out loud. Where is the money? The response came from a different email address, branded the same, signed by a different name. It framed the concern as premature. Early-stage developments were capital-intensive. Progress was not linear. No numbers were provided. The drone did not fly the following week. No announcement, no explanation, just absence. Investors filled the gap with speculation, equipment delays, weather, permitting, holidays. Then the footage returned. A single clip. Shorter. Higher altitude. The site looked smaller than before. The coastline dominated the frame. The white marker was harder to see. An investor asked why the drone had changed altitude. The reply said flight regulations varied. The site visit requests increased. The replies slowed. Another contractor was contacted. Same result. No active job, no crews scheduled. Someone contacted the local planning office, asked about inspections. The clerk said none were on file. The drone footage arrived again, this time without voiceover. Music only, the visuals did all the talking. That was when the belief finally cracked. Not because of a single fact, because of accumulation. The sameness, the deflection, the distance. The development existed most clearly when viewed from above. The closer anyone got, the thinner it became. By the end of the month, investors were no longer asking when construction would accelerate. They were asking who had authority to answer at all. The footage kept coming. The ground stayed still. Chapter 3. The collapse. The footage stopped without warning. No final update. No delayed notice. 1 week passed, then another. The channel where the videos usually appeared stayed silent. At first, investors assumed a pause. Weather, airspace restrictions, scheduling problems. The explanations that had worked before filled the gap automatically. Then emails began to bounce. Not all of them. Just enough to be noticed. A message sent to the usual contact returned with a delivery failure. Another went through but received no reply. A third was read according to the receipt and left unanswered. The absence of the drone created a vacuum. Without the moving image, the development had nothing to lean on. Investors compared notes openly now. The private spreadsheet expanded. More names, more amounts. The total climbed. The realization settled in slowly. Most of the capital had been sent before anyone had seen the site up close. One investor drove back to the land. This time, he walked the perimeter. There were no signs posted, no security, no temporary fencing. The white marker was gone. The ground looked exactly as it had months earlier, untouched, wind-marked, empty. Photos circulated, then video. Ground level shaky, honest. The contrast was undeniable. Calls were placed to the holding entity listed in escrow documents. The number rang to voicemail. The greeting was generic, no company name. No return calls followed. A registered agent was contacted. They confirmed only what was on paper. A mailbox, a forwarding address, no staff. Marketing entities named in contracts were traced. One had dissolved quietly weeks earlier. Another had changed its name. A third shared directors with the holding company. The pattern was no longer subtle. Investors organized a call without the development team. Faces appeared, some angry, some pale, some silent. They compared promises, timelines, language, every assurance traced back to footage. No one could point to a single on-site milestone that had been verified independently. A formal demand letter was drafted. It asked for escrow reconciliation, permit copies, contractor agreements. A deadline was set. The letter was sent to every known address. No response came. An investor contacted local authorities, filed a complaint, provided documents, shared footage and ground photos side by side. Another did the same in a different jurisdiction. The threshold was reached quietly, not by outrage, by paperwork. Investigators reviewed the materials. They did not comment on intent. They focused on representations, on money flow, on the gap between what was shown and what existed. The site was visited officially. The conclusion was brief: no active construction. The development team finally replied to an email. It was short. It said operations were being reviewed. It said communication would resume. It did not mention the drone. Then that address went dark. Accounts tied to the holding entity were frozen pending review. The movement of funds stopped. The damage was already done. Investors received notices, legal language, process, timelines stretched forward. The land remained vacant. Aerial footage surfaced weeks later. Not from the development team, from a real estate listing. The land was for sale. No mention of prior work, no reference to phases, just acreage. Potential. The investors watched the listing video in silence. It looked familiar. The same coastline, the same angle, the same promise. This time, the camera dipped lower. It showed scrub. It showed tire ruts from a single truck. It showed nothing built. The illusion was gone. Some investors pursued recovery. Others wrote off losses, relationships strained, trust eroded. No arrests were announced, no dramatic takedowns, just filings. Reviews, quiet proceedings. The drone had done its job. It had created a sense of completion where none existed. It had replaced proof with perspective. The lesson spread faster than the scheme ever had. From then on, when investors discussed developments, someone always asked the same question. Has anyone been on the ground? Because what looks finished from the sky can disappear the moment the camera stops flying.